my youngest son, David, was born. A few weeks before he was born, the Lord said, David's going to have, I didn't know it was David, didn't even know it was a boy back then. But anyway, the Lord said, the devil's going to try to take his life in the delivery room. And so when I got to the delivery room and I had the baby and the doctor come out and the doctor said, everything's fine. No, he didn't say everything's fine. He said, you got to find baby boy. So I thought, well, I must have not been hearing from God. And about 15 minutes later, he came back in the room and he said, I didn't want to get you upset, but this boy's got a blockage in his stomach. He's vomiting up something green, and we're going to have to rush him to Children's Hospital in D.C. for an emergency operation. Well, I thought, well, God forewarned me, but so that really was right on it. And I got on the phone, and I called all my prayer partners, and I said, pray for David, and I told them the situation. Before they had time to make the x-ray to confirm that, David was totally healed, and they let me take him home the next day. But now I have to tell you, God doesn't always answer prayer like we expect. Because my youngest daughter, when she was born, she began to have seizures when she was 2 years old, which eventually left her mentally retarded. But she had seizures for years. We fasted, we prayed. The doctors did every test. They did every medicine they could think of. And nothing would, the seizures continued to increase and increase and increase. But one day my nephew came down and wanted to pray for her. By the way, my daughter's name is Joyful Peace, because God told me he was going to have a little girl and I was to name her Joyful Peace. So in spite of her seizures, she was the happiest little girl you could imagine. But anyway, we prayed over her, and honestly, my faith was to the max. I was just sure Joy was going to be totally healed. And about that time, I heard a noise in the other room, and I rushed in there, and she had had a seizure that was so major, it looked like she'd been knocked across the room. Things was knocked off the coffee table, and it was just like an attack of the enemy. And I said, God, I'm not talking to you anymore, because I thought you healed her. And I sit there for probably 2 hours trying not to talk to God, because I was angry. I thought he deceived me. I thought he let me down. And after a couple of hours, it was hard as everything, because I'm so used to talking to him all the time. It was hard to keep my mouth shut. But he spoke to my heart, and he said, do you only love me for what I do for you, or for who I am? And I said, I fell on my knees, and I said, God, if you never do things the way I think you should do them, I will always love you. So even when God doesn't answer, he has a purpose and he has a plan. And I know that I will yet see the day when my daughter is totally restored.